Hello everybody. So a few days ago I released a response video to Yusuf Ponders on nihilism. He had another video to which I was planning to respond as well on the same topic. Perhaps coincidentally, the day after I released my video, the second of his videos to which I was going to respond suddenly turned from public to private. That same video, however, is on Subboor Ahmed's channel, so I will analyse it from there. Yusuf and Subboor are reacting to a video on optimistic nihilism. I will link both videos in the description.
Human existence is scary and confusing. A few 100,000 years ago, we became conscious and found ourselves in a strange place. It was filled with other beings. We could eat some could eat us. There was liquid stuff we could drink, things we could use to make more things. The daytime sky had a tiny yellow ball that warmed our skin. The night sky was filled with beautiful lights. This place was obviously made for us. Something was watching over us. We were home. This made everything much less scary and confusing.
Pause.
But the more we got, the more we learned about the world and ourselves. We learned that the twinkling lights are not shining beautifully
Pause
for
it.
us. They just...
But yeah, so first of all, he said that these stories made things less scary. That's not evident at all, especially when you think about the stories about hellfire.
The opening segment could be linked to Douglas Adams's puddle analogy. This is how primitive people thought when they were first discovering the world. Hellfire came later once people invented religions.
Yeah,
made everything much less scary and confusing. But the older we got, the more we learned about the world and ourselves. We learned that the twinkling lights are not shining beautifully for us, they just are. We learned that we're not at the center of what we now call the universe, and that it is much, much older than we thought.
Press
We
pause.
learned that we're made of many little...
And so this bit as well, we learned that we're not the center of the universe. Like, I'm the center of my universe. You're the center of your universe. Like, it's not a strange thing to think that people would see themselves as the center of their universe. You know, that they are at the center of their experience.
This is a really dumb comment. People may feel that they are the center of their own personal universe, but the video was clearly implying that humans are not the center of the universe.
You know, who cares about what's going on the planet 2 million light years away? Like, whatever kind of thought that develops at all, you know, historically, there's no necessity for why it wouldn't develop around us.
It doesn't matter whether you care about what happens on distant galaxies. That still doesn't make you the center of the universe. At this point, it seems appropriate to remember Carl Sagan and the pale blue dot.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, they're just subtly trying to bring in that whole Copernican revolution idea.
Yeah.
Ah, the Copernican revolution, when we used science to discover that we were not the centre of the solar system, like as suggested by the Ptolemaic system. Subboor seems disappointed that this happened. Maybe because the geocentric view was adopted by Islam. I will link this video from the Rationalizer if you want more information.
Dead things which make up bigger things that are not dead for some reason, and that we're just another temporary stage in a history going back over 1 billion years. We learned in awe that we live on a moist speck of dust moving around a medium-sized star in a quiet region of one arm of an average galaxy, which is part of a galaxy group that we will never leave. And this group is only one of thousands that together make up a galaxy supercluster. Even our supercluster is only one in thousands that make up what we call the observable universe. The universe might be 1 million times bigger, but we will never know. We could throw words around like 200 billion galaxies, or trillions of stars, or bazillions of planets, but all of these numbers mean nothing. Our brains can't comprehend these concepts. The universe is too big. There is too much of it. But size is not the most troubling concept we have to deal with. It's time, or more precisely, the time we have. If you're lucky enough to live to 100, you have 5,200 weeks at your disposal. If you're 25 now, then you have 3,900 weeks left. If you're going to die at 70, then there are 2,340 weeks left. A lot of time, but also not really. And then what? Your biological processes will break down, and the dynamic pattern that is you will stop being dynamic. It will dissolve until there is no you left. Some believe that there is a part of us we can't see or measure, but we have no way to find out. So this life might be it, being dynamic. It will dissolve until there is no you left. Some believe that there is a part of us we can't see or measure.
Right, so he says it will dissolve until there is no you left. It's a very matter-of-fact statement. And then follows it up with saying, well, we don't really know what happens. Well, you just said there's going to be no you left.
He says we have no way of finding out if there is a part of us that we can't see or measure, so death might be it. He didn't say it with certainty, but he remarked that the idea that a part of us may live on after death is currently untestable.
We have no way to find out. So this life might be it, and we might end up dead forever.
Press pause again. So he said there's no way of us finding out. Well, there is if we get revelation. There is if, the source of the universe is making attempts to communicate with us.
Supposed revelation doesn't bring any convincing evidence that there's a creator, or that the creator is trying to communicate with us, especially if the revelations come from very questionable sources mixed with folklore.
One thing that I noticed in this is people, Islamically, we have this paradigm that disbelievers or people who are calling to falsehood, they will lure you with false words which are beautiful. And I find this is exactly an apt description of this type of video. So it's got very nihilistic, very fatalist type of ideas, toxic for our existential health, right? I mean, if you imagine, the human body, being electrocuted, imagine our existential health meter being electrocuted, right, and being tortured. This is what this thing is about, but they're trying to coach it in a language that makes it look like it's something positive, when it's a horrendous thought that everything that we know, we feel, all the emotions we've been through in life, they'll just go back to nothing.
What's wrong with that? Why do you feel if you don't have eternity, then that's a horrendous thought? The transient nature of things is highlighted positively in this video, as you'll see later. For now, let's consider this quote from Leonard Nimoy.
Less scary than it sounds, though. If you don't remember the 13.75 billion years that went by before you existed, then the trillions and trillions and trillions of years that come after will pass in no time once you're gone. Close your eyes. Count to 1. That's how long forever feels.
Press pause.
As far as we know, in the end.
So with this again, he's assuming that, like, for example, if our lives begin at a particular point, then it doesn't follow from that we'd remember anything prior to it. And just because what's happened prior, it doesn't follow from that that's going to be something that's going to happen after death as well. There's a leap here. Before living isn't necessarily the same as after living, or after, before life in this world. You can't correlate them as equal or the same thing.
Why should we feel anything after death? We didn't feel anything before atoms rearranged into us. Why should we experience feelings when our atoms separate after our death? I'm reminded of this quote by Mark Twain.
The universe itself will die, and nothing will ever change again. Our videos induce existential dread in many people, and the last few minutes probably haven't helped. Those for one, we want to offer a different way of looking at these things. An unscientific, subjective point of view. The philosophy of Kurzgesagt, if you want. Please take it with a grain of salt. We don't know any more about human existence than you do.
Just about this, what I did feel is that the way they transitioned, right, guys, we were just talking about science and fact, and now we're going to go into the subjective realm and take it with a pinch of salt. We're not really sure. As if the prior parts of the video had not the same subjectivity, and now we're going to the subjective realm.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. So he's making this apparent transition from something very scientific to something subjective.
That's because the video transitioned from explaining reality to offering a philosophical solution.
So he's somehow
because what he's done with the science stuff is he's mixed up methodological naturalism and philosophical naturalism. So he's saying there's no explanation, therefore there is no basically science is not telling us in so many words that there's a soul, or something happens after we die, therefore that's the case. So it's a very strong scientism, very strong empiricism type of presupposition. And then when it's talking about something, it's saying, oh, that was subjective, right? Oh, no, now we're going to go into subjective before we deal with objective. In reality, that was too subjective. Science doesn't say there is no soul. That's your assumption.
Science says there's no evidence of a soul, but it can't rule it out. The narrator clearly said we have no way of knowing, so it's still methodological naturalism.
We counter existential dread with optimistic nihilism. What do we mean by that? Well, to summarize, it seems very unlikely that 200 trillion stars have been made for us. In a way, it feels like the cruelest joke in existence has been played on us.
Press pause. Who says that all of these stars were made only for us? Like, it's not a case necessarily that everything is just for us. It could very well be that there are other creations on other parts of the universe, that they could be made for many things. It doesn't, it doesn't follow from anything that we like. I don't know. Press play when you're ready.
Yeah. For example, in Pale Blue Planet, Carl Sagan, he repeatedly uses this line that the universe is so vastly big, and that's supposed to be an argument against religion or God.
Carl Sagan doesn't use this as an argument against God, but that as humans we should look at this image of our tiny world and deal more kindly with one another and preserve the Earth, the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Only to realize this story is not about us. While it is great to know about electrons and the powerhouse of the cell, science doesn't do a lot to make this less depressing. Okay, but so what? You only get one shot at life, which is scary, but it also sets you free.
Press pause. You only get one shot at life. Again, this is not just like a subjective, that was a very matter-of-fact claim.
There is only one life we are all guaranteed to have. Everything else is just speculation.
The universe ends in heat death. Every humiliation you suffer in your life will be forgotten.
Press pause. So just go back to that image. And if you can hide and what is the worldly life except the enjoyment of delusion? That's one of my favorite quotes as well, by the way. If you can get rid of that and hide it. So see this bit, when he's talking, he's trying to get you to imagine that you're the person crying and running away. And he says, all of the embarrassment, and go back a bit and press play and then pause it after the.
Suffer in your life will be forgotten.
Everything will be forgotten. You don't have to just imagine yourself as the little person being bullied, though. You can look at yourself as the person doing the bullying and then feel better about it. That removes guilt and shame for something that you would have otherwise have felt bad about. Like he's pointing at someone. It don't matter. Everyone's going to forget anyway. Yeah, nothing's going to matter in the end. And just as much as he might be using this to make people feel okay about being bullied, someone who is the bully can watch this and feel better about the fact that they've bullied someone.
That's why when you accept no afterlife, then you accept there's no divine justice. This makes it more important that justice is served on people during their lifetime. It's true that people have committed atrocities and have not faced justice. But if you accept there is no divine justice after death, then you will want more emphasis to be placed on providing that justice before death.
Feel, redeemed by this, about being evil. And if they've done that in the past, and, that maybe the fact that they were feeling guilt might have been, the catalyst for a transformation within them, had they facilitated that feeling and allowed it to carry them through the process of change. If he comes over here now and just watches this video and he successfully extinguishes that guilt from them, the catalyst for that transformation gets removed. It's gone. Why feel guilty? Doesn't matter. You all turn to dust anyway.
Again, that's why it's important to reward good deeds and punish bad ones in this lifetime and not wait for a cosmic divine justice. The bully in this case needs to experience negative consequences in this lifetime.
No one's going to remember it. Like it is like, not only is it, like, as he said, immensely subjective, it's dangerous. It's funny because people often talk about how Islam is dangerous and, so on and so forth. When you have this kind of atheistic, nihilistic tendency, and not to conflate the two, because people keep saying this. They keep going, well, I'm an atheist and I'm not a nihilist. I believe in meaning. This isn't something you choose. Nihilism isn't something you pick. It's the necessary consequence of something, whether or not someone's noticed it happening or not. Just because you're feeling subjective meaning in the present moment, that doesn't override the fact that from an atheistic perspective, nihilism is an inevitable consequence. That your feeling of meaning temporarily right now is, from that perspective, an illusion. It's just, the peculiarity of you, the subjective little being that happens to be in a position where you're feeling it, but there's no truth in that meaning.
The same could be said of you in your religious bubble, living out this life hoping for hedonistic heaven.
If the universe has no principles, the only principles relevant are the ones we decide on. If the universe...
Pause. The only principles are the ones we decide on. Like, this has massive moral implications.
We decide means collectively as a society decides what's best. We can still have our individual opinions, but as long as we live in a society where there are laws to prevent people acting for the greater harm of others, we will benefit under humanism more than a theocracy. The rest of their analysis is just repetition of the same points. Let's finish off by looking at a section of the video to which they are responding, and then have a look at some of the comments to see if the people watching that video agree with Subboor and Yusuf.
We are truly free in a universe-sized playground, so we might as well aim to be happy and to build some kind of utopia in the stars. It's not as if we found out everything there is to know. We don't know why the rules of the universe are as they are, how life came into existence, what life is. We have no idea what consciousness is, or if we are alone in the universe, but we can try to find some answers. There are billions of stars to visit, diseases to cure, people to help, happy feelings to be experienced, and video games to finish. There is so much to do. So wrapping up, you've probably used up a good chunk of the time available to you. If this is our one shot at life, there is no reason not to have fun and live as happily as possible. Bonus points if you make the life of other people better. More bonus points if you help build a galactic human empire. Do the things that make you feel good. You get to decide whatever this means for you.
As of today, the 17th of September 2023, this video has 16.7 million views and 928,000 likes, so it's clearly resonating with a lot of people. Since nothing matters, you're free to assign value to whatever you want, so you don't have to feel like you've wasted your life playing video games and reading comic books. It made you happy, so it mattered, and if it mattered to you, you mattered too. Kurzgesagt just solved the existential crisis. Goddamn, I love those burbs. This is the top rated comment with 39,000 likes. The next comment, close your eyes, count to 1. That's how long forever feels. Completely put my mind at ease about death every single time. Next comment, this is how I've felt since I was a child. Life has no meaning, there's no reason for my existence, so I assigned myself the reason to live happily and do whatever I want. I come back to this video every time I start to feel overwhelmed. The number of times this video has pulled me out of a depressive episode is insane. Close your eyes, count to 1. That's how long forever feels. No other combination of words in the history of humanity was ever as comforting. I'm in the middle of what I hope I can call the lowest point of my life, fighting severe clinical depression, anxiety, panic syndrome, addictions, and more. This video hit me hard. Midway, it made me burst out in tears. I'm not sure what struck me the most, but I haven't had a cry this good in a while. Thank you for giving me a fresh perspective when I'm this lost in life. I know this sounds weird, but I'm grateful for having an existential crisis. It has made me realize the true beauty and mysteriousness of life. Since the beginning of my 20s, I suffered from nihilistic point of view. I couldn't do anything for myself because I knew nothing makes sense in the end. But lately I realized if nothing matters anyways, I can live as I want to, and I don't have to prove anything to anyone. Now I try to care less in a positive way. Until I saw this video randomly, I didn't know it had a name, and actually was a thing. I literally cried watching this video. I just turned 25 and my life hasn't been a very happy one so far, but right now I feel both encouraged and relieved from a lot of burdens. Thank you, Kurzgesagt. Surely these views are much more important and rooted in reality than the opinion of two primitive thinking people. Thank you for watching, and please let me know what you think in the comments section.